Okay, we're now into Swallow, which was a new soft group 4 variety last year, so this will be the first harvest we've seen with it. Always looked of particular interest to Scotland because it's a very short stiff early variety, so agronomically had a lot of attraction there. Had a very, or has a very good alcohol, very high alcohol yield, so very attractive to the distillers. It was never the cleanest variety, and unfortunately yet again we've got a cougar backcross, David, and you can see it unfortunately this time in the untreated plot.
I think with the variety being so short, it's probably making it look, you know, it's really stand out in here, and because of the way the variety would develop, you would get a lot of leaf rub that were coming through at that time. So yes, it probably looks worse than others, but maybe when you actually do a disease score, it's probably not too bad. But yeah, I mean the shortness of it is staggering. You know how it. Yeah, so for anybody who's sort of concerned about standing power and anything like that, it's a really good go-to variety. It's
got that slow development as well, which again is quite attractive because it means you can drill it early. It does look more raggedy and dirty in the untreated plot this year than it did last year, and that is the difference between the cougar that we didn't see last year and we've seen this year. But it looks fine over here. It's been fairly warmly embraced by the Scottish seed market, Laura, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in for about 10% of the Scottish seed crop area this year. So, I mean, this will be taking the second highest chunk behind Skyscraper. So, yeah, potentially it does have a place and it will be popular. I mean, obviously it will need to be managed, but we constantly get farmers saying they want to see shorter, stiffer strawed varieties. We now have one. Unfortunately, it does have the issue on the disease resistance side, but if growers can manage that, which they can, it does give them an option to fill that slot.
Definitely. And to be fair, even last year when we stood here, disease resistance was never its absolute forte. It was always a bit middling anyway, and all the things that we liked about it last year are still there this year.
If you remember last year as well, I think we're about the same time, but we'd had a lot of wetter flowering period, and it was quite evident that there was a lot of fusarium in it as well. This year it's obviously not shown because we haven't had the wet weather with flowering, but it didn't. It seemed those who had it last year seemed to yield, and I think this year there's quite a lot of interest in it still, isn't there?
No, there is. Again, a bit like the Saki, the grain quality possibly not as good as some. I would say the spec weight's definitely not as good, but there's still some compelling reasons for growing Swallow, and it'll be interesting to see how it yields. I mean, it's in the mix on the yield in the north. It definitely yields better in the north than it does in any other region in the UK. If there was ever a place for it, it's definitely up here. So let's see how it does, but it's certainly definitely still in the mix for me.